So, hello everybody. Thank you for being here. Today we are in a panel, Building Trust in Research Libraries Through Citizen Science. Thank you very much for making time, being available for this panel. And please remember, this is not a range of presentations. This is a panel. So we have the ambition of having at least 30 minutes of discussions. But for that, we need your questions and your interactions throughout the panel. Thank you very much for being here. I'm obviously not Thomas Karsted. He was supposed to be the chair, but he asked for apologies. Something intervened yesterday, an emergency. So he is not able to chair this meeting, but he sends you all his best regards. I am Tiberius Ignat from Scientific Knowledge Services. I am today together with my colleagues, Anne-Katrien from Denmark, Dirk from Netherlands, and Simon from Germany. Thank you to LIBER office for making this possible, this panel, and having all the arrangements beautifully placed to be here together. This is part of the LIBER online, the very first online conference, and we should also acknowledge the contribution of sponsors for making this possible. So today, this session will be recorded. If you continue to stay in, it means that you acknowledge that and you accept that. And the slides will be made available afterwards. If you have questions for speakers or comments, please do have questions for speakers and comments. Please use the attendee chat to pose them. And here again, we have a great support from the LIBER office to curate this conversation and to bring it up to the panelists. I will wear two hats today, one as a chair, and I will also be, for a short period, a panelist. If you have technical issues, please check your settings under these three dots that appear in your screen, and also your internet connection. And if you still have bad luck, please try to rejoin this meeting today by closing first and then rejoining it. So what else? The panelists today: Anne-Katrien Overgaard, the head of external projects, the Faculty of Health Science at University of Southern Denmark. She is here with us. Please give a warm round of applause. You have an option to send some sort of emote icons and so on. Perfect. We are warming up. Then we have Simon Worthington, researcher from the German National Library of Science and Technology. And we have Dirk van Gorp, the Open Science Manager of Radboud University in the Netherlands. I am Tiberius Ignat from Scientific Knowledge Services. Okay, that being said, we want to let you know about the Citizen Science Working Group within LIBER. This panel is an activity of our working group. We formed last year in Dublin, and we have a beautiful team aligned, but you are invited to join this team if you want, of course. For that, simply have in mind contacting our colleague Mitya from Central Technical Library in Ljubljana. He is responsible for forming the team in our working group. We act having in mind 6 strategic directions that you see now on your screen, and you are warmly invited to join our working group in the lucky situation that you are interested in citizen science and the role of libraries for citizen science. So today, a bit of the program, we'll speak about strategies and opportunities for research organizations and libraries within citizen science. That's going to be me and Anne-Katrien. Then we will have a glance into a future research librarian's guide to citizen science, which is prepared by our colleague Simon. And then we will close with research libraries, a single point of contact for citizen science, with where Dirk is responsible for this for this activity in this strategic direction in our working group. And I will also have a small intervention. So that having been said, let's kick it off And I will start with a presentation about citizen science between the autonomy of science and the third mission. For that, I will project some slides here, and I hope this experience it's good for you. Let's talk a bit about science. As a preamble of this presentation, science represents the need to find the truth, the freedom to explore the bizarre, and the right to communicate the inconvenient findings that researchers are having. It is very important to set the stage in this way. But we have ever found the truth? No. Do we have any chance to find the truth after all? I think this is very unlikely. We don't have answers to this. Although we found a way to describe the universe using the mathematics as a language and triangles, circles, and other geometric figures as characters, we are simply running behind the truth. Therefore, we found a solution. To continue to explore the bizarre, the most bizarre corners of the nature, to continue to try to establish findings, no matter how hard it is to accept them sometimes, we found a solution for that. And what is the solution? The solution is to agree on what we trust. So we cannot find the truth, but we can agree on what we trust. Researchers don't say they find the ultimate understanding of a phenomenon. They simply say they just agree on what they trust once they have a new discovery. In that sense, science is an agreement, it's a humble activity, a quest for truth. We should remain humble because we need to accept that we will not be able to determine the truth. What we are able to do is to have an agreement about what we trust and to have a comfort to say today, for example, that, well, red meat is the new white meat, or sitting down is the new smoking because we have new discoveries, or maybe in arts, black is the new green. We have new discoveries. What does it mean? Research is a quest for truth, and trust is the currency of research. But before we go further, we know to be clear about something which is the secrecy of science. Open science is a cultural change, and no cultural change should be successfully be placed if traditions are ignored. And the open communication entered science in the 16th and 17th century, and several factors limited previously the free circulation of knowledge about nature. For example, the Pythagorean and Aristotelian traditions distinguish between esoteric and popular knowledge, and they restricted the esoteric knowledge to what they called elite disciples. In the philosophy that flourished in the Renaissance and embraced alchemy and other mythical systems, particularly reserved the secrets of nature for what they called initiates. The guild system discouraged the dissemination of craft techniques, well, that was science at that time, beyond the artisan's workshop, or the absence of intellectual property deterred engineers at that time and inventors for publishing their work. Instead, what they did, they composed treatises and other things, and they put a cipher in it. Leonardo da Vinci, for example, was writing in mirror to foil copycats. Several developments then during the scientific revolution then combined some solutions to overcome this secrecy. The technology of printing, which we all know and love, allowed the wide dissemination of work. The Italian city-states were already implementing a kind of a patent law since the 15th century, I would say, and it proved so fruitful that it spread throughout Europe in the 16th century. It extended eventually into what we have now, the intellectual property and the copyrights. Finally, the new societies, such as the Royal Society in London, the Académie Royale des Sciences in Paris, both founded in the mid-17th century a practical solution, which is journals, for promoting the communication in science. But as you see, secrecy was a tradition in science. It is, and we need to acknowledge it. Citizen science is part of open science, so it's part of this cultural change which works and should acknowledge secrecy. Today, we have also secrets in science. We have, first of all, the personal secrecy, which is stemmed from the reward system of scientific community, emphasizing the priority of individual discoveries and encourage scientists to keep publishing results for themselves. Otherwise, a colleague would be able to work on that progress and credit it for publishing it first. Then we have industrial secrecy, which there is from the rewards of ownership of the capitalist. Such proprietary concerns stiffed peer review and fostered duplication in genomics research at the end of the 20th century. So it is very important to acknowledge. Secrecy also stems from the relevance of science for the national security and military interests. This is something that we simply can't ignore. It is important for open science, and citizen science is part of it, to deal with this hermeticism. Ignoring it or not understanding it, it will be an expensive mistake. So I hope this set a bit the stage, and we talked a bit about science. Now we talked about a bit about the secrecy of science. So what is next? Let's speak a bit about the autonomy of science. Remember, this is a panel, so my presentation is only intended to give food for thought. Please start using the chat and putting questions. And I think it's important to already start in engaging in the interactions with us. So let's talk about this autonomy. We argue that open science, which includes citizen science, must not be the ultimate goal of a transformation to something what we call better science. Open science is, in our humble opinion, is just a stepping stone to autonomy of science. Today, I see science as a commission activity, presented as a thematic and financial phrase, what we call now call for proposals or call for projects. Is it, in fact, a commission work, a commission activity? These calls were very much improved over the years in terms of increased freedom, better evaluation, endorsing inclusiveness, and international cooperation, but they remain a frame for commission work. Even worse, in private research and national security, research and science remain strictly a commission activity. So how does it work with science that is represents the need for a large degree of autonomy, a full autonomy, I would argue, to develop better understanding, to be able to explore the bizarre, to be comfortable to communicate inconvenient findings? How does it work? For those up to the task, the real bet is to chase autonomy of science. Open science remains just a stepping stone to that goal. I know we don't have time, but I invite you to revisit the presentation, like all other presentations from LIBER online this year. And I want to give credit to an interview that inspired me about the concept of autonomy of science. Sylvain Laurent, it is a lecturer of the School of Advanced Studies in Social Sciences in Paris. And in January this year, Le Monde interviewed him. In his word, it said that for certain reasons, we no longer debate about what science is. He warmly invites the scientific community to continue repositioning science in society. Please consider reading this interview. It could inspire all of us to think about autonomy of science. And these slides will be available through the LIBER office, and you will have there a link to this article. So to wrap up, we discussed a bit about the culture behind open science. We presented so far our views about science, the secrecy of science, and the autonomy of science. Let's go further now. So why do we bother? Do you wonder why do we bother? Well, in 2012, OECD and the European Commission stated that higher education is facing unprecedented challenges in the definition of its purpose, role, organization, scope in society and economy. Let's introduce today to the panel the third mission of universities. The third mission is the contribution of university to the local regional development. What is citizen science? It's a public engagement in research activities where we have active contributions, and it involves intellectual work, knowledge and wisdom, tools and resources. So citizen science has three main pillars: to enhance scientific research, address societal needs, and to contribute to education and expand networks between researchers and the public. So we have these things at stake to discuss today, and the argument is that citizen science stays between the autonomy of science and the third mission. So with that being said, I go back to the digital stage now, and I hand over to Anne-Catherine. Please do, yes, from this slide. And Anne-Catherine, you can take over to your slides. Sorry if I passed one. So please do engage in the chat. Thank you very much, and feel free to pose questions.
Hello, and thank you for this opportunity. I'm Anne-Catherine from the Faculty of Health Sciences at SDU, and I'm glad to be able to tell you about the collaboration with our research library on citizen science. My perspective will be rather practical and draw on our experiences at SDU. This photo shows some of the elements in citizen science. To your right, you see the researcher. Jens is a professor in active living. And to the left, you see me from the Citizen Science Network at SDU. And the one you don't see, the photographer, is my colleague Thomas, also from the Citizen Science Network and from our library. In the middle, you see some of the citizens. And if you look at their hands, you see small, colorful post-it notes with this precious data on. The photo is from a workshop planned in collaboration with a local newspaper who asked their readers to participate in order to be co-creators on a citizen science project on planning an area which can enhance active living. The collaboration with a media partner is often crucial in order to recruit citizens to a citizen science project. But I will get back to these different elements in citizen science later. But first, a few words on why doing citizen science and how we are organized. Why do citizen science? Well, there's a lot of good reasons. For example, getting good data, new insights, motivation, and so forth. And in Denmark, citizen science is often used for data collection or mapping of wildlife. But at SDU, we see citizen science as more than that. We see citizen science as a method for interaction and dialogue between citizens and researchers, thereby reducing the distance between them in order to enhance debate based on knowledge and fact instead of fake news. Yeah, I'm from the Faculty of Health Sciences, and our primary competences are research and education. Oh, sorry. But that is not enough for doing citizen science. We also need to be able to recruit citizens and communicate to the citizens. We need to be able to establish trustful relations with media and arrange and run events and workshops. And we need a clear contact points from all the project partners. So therefore, we need to partner up. And we find that our research library has all the right competences, and they already function as a bridge between citizens and research. And our library have a lot of external contacts to media, schools, public libraries, and so forth. So for us, our research library is an ideal partner. Faculty and library is a perfect match, but how is it done? First, we established a citizen science network at SDU. My colleague Thomas and I had been discussing how to engage citizens in research for some time. And with citizen science as a method, we talked to the deans and the director of the local university hospital to hear if they could support and would like to use such a network. And they were very positive. And in no time, we had a network and was conducting the first event. And we actually believe in the power of many. So the Citizen Science Network is a partnership between the 5 faculties at the university, the local university hospital, and our research library, where the library has an important role as a facilitator and as a bridge between citizens and research, as well as a partner for the researchers. This is nearly 4 years ago, and now we are working on a transformation to from a citizen science network to a knowledge center for citizen science. This center will be more formal than just a network, and the knowledge center will be based in the library, but in close collaboration with the faculties. We have been asked a few times how.
Anne-Catherine, if I may interrupt you, I think you are rubbing the papers to your microphone. If you can try to avoid.
Sorry. Thank you. We have been asked a few times how to start a new citizen science project, and the answer is that it depends. Sometimes the researcher contact the citizen science network, and sometimes the citizen science network reach out to a specific researchers. But in the start, where citizen science and the citizen science network not were that well known at our university, we held a workshop as this one at the photo, where we invited researchers from the 5 faculties, from our local university hospital, as well as students, and we invited people from the media and from local museums. We had inspiring talks about citizen science and insights from people outside academia. And then in breakout groups, they discussed and came up with ideas for concrete citizen science project. The workshop was very successful, and we launched the first citizen science project that reached 500,000 Danes based on one of these ideas. So our citizen science work based on this collaboration had a flying start. And I can recommend this sort of bottom-up approach. At least in Denmark, the researchers prefer this instead of a top-down approach. The Citizen Science Network is a kind offer to our researchers. They don't have to do citizen science, but if they want to do citizen science and they want support, we are ready to support and collaborate on a specific project. And now the last slide. From our experience, the most important for working with citizen science is a culture that allows and support collaboration as well as trust. We don't need a contract or a letter of agreement. We just work together and collaborate to get the best results. And talking about leadership, well, it has been important for us that our leaders support citizen science and articulate the need for social engagement and citizen science as a way to do that. And again, trust is a very important keyword because you can't always predict the outcome of a citizen science project. But just to sum up, if you want citizen science as a part of your culture, I strongly recommend collaboration with the faculties. Doing citizen science is surely worthwhile, and it's good fun as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne-Catherine. Thank you for this. And please join me in giving a round of warm applause to Anne-Catherine if you enjoyed her presentation. Next in line is Simon Worthington, which is researcher at the National Library of Science and Technology in Germany, and he will speak up to us today something about a librarian's guide for citizen science. The floor is yours, Simon.
Great, thank you, Tiberius, and thank you, LIBER, for organizing this. I look forward to the questions, Q&A, and the like. So yeah, ask any questions about what I'm going to present here. So I'm going to spend 10 minutes and introduce you to a project which is part of the working group. Is an international research librarian's guide to citizen science. As Tiberius said, I'm based at the German National Library of Science and Technology, and I'm in the Open Science Lab there, working around hybrid publishing, which can help me bring along that work, to help with this publishing project, and also in advocating open science, primarily to researchers, but with an interest in citizen science as a way in which for researchers in terms of their dissemination. I'll spend, so I've got two halves to what I'm going to talk about here. Part, what I see as challenge citizen science and the role that libraries can play within that. But also, and in the second part about the type of publication we're planning to make, because it's not an ordinary publication. I mean, obviously, as research libraries, we have this conundrum in that we are stuck in the middle where citizens are not allowed to access a lot of literature, or the majority of literature that we hold. So how do we get around these questions? It puts us in a difficult position. So I think there's this public book from MIT Press, from Joe Karaganis from 2018 called Shadow Libraries, talks a lot about the different communities that are excluded. And obviously shadow libraries means not official libraries. So we want those people to come to our libraries, not to the shadow libraries. And I would say a personal observation, I've been involved in climate change work. And what I was seeing at the end of last year was, in terms of the climate protests, a new youth who want access to knowledge. And in some ways, we need to think about how we go to them. So I think these are some, and obviously COVID puts us in a new context where scientists are more visible. So I think there's something there. There's something going on for a new type of citizen science, or something added to it. The other question is about, I suppose, a starting place for our book, or our guide, handbook, is the American SciStarter publication, Librarian's Guide to Citizen Science.
Simon, you are muted. Hello, can you hear us? Yes, but we can't hear you, Simon. No, we can't hear you. Okay, just 1 second, we wait. Maybe there is a cable, a jack issue.
Can you hear me again?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, sorry, my technical...
Welcome back.
Okay, good, the oxygen's back on again. I was going to say that we're different, or we hold different things from the public library. So there are different questions there for us, in terms of data science, in terms of how we can help the public, help the public citizens on board with the different types of collections we have. As an example, a couple of examples from which are mainly in research libraries. So I've worked with a project called Open Virus, which is looking at putting data mining tools in the hands of citizens for the purpose of making use of that research, making use of that open research. And another example, something very different that a research library holds, which is a library handbook and guide made by the Harvard Library on Astrophysics around microsatellite data. So there's very different things that are going on within research libraries. I mean, the microsatellite thing also happens in public libraries. And so thinking about what can be taken out to the citizens and around trust, here was an interesting response. Melissa Terrace was asking in a tweet about, what extra things are there within libraries that can be made visible? And a researcher working at a British library in the UK Web Archives looked at how data mining could be used to make theses available as kind of data objects without releasing those theses which they hold. So there are kind of ways that things that libraries already hold can be put out. Over to what is the publication? What are we going to make? We've been in the planning stages, and I think now with the LIBER conference and some delays from COVID, we're now getting into action. So we're looking at a community-owned publication driven by book sprints, produced in multi-format, and looking at what parts of that can go out into learning management systems, and also very much, totally using open source workflows for this. Now, there's a lot there. I'll break it down. You can ask questions later on. Building a community publication. Now, what we're doing, or what we're putting on the table here to do, is to borrow from something that's already being done. So the Turing Way is from the Turing Institute. It's been a publication that is maybe a year or so old and continually evolving, just had a release the other day. But here they've used a computational publishing framework where you can run graphs and models, but do a normal a normal publication too. But they've very much put this out in the open and made it as practitioners build it. And this publication was around data science. And as they say, made by scientists for scientists. Ours would be different, made by librarians and people working in libraries for librarians or for libraries. The second part is book sprints. Now, this is something that my colleagues have been doing at TIB for quite some time. We're able to bring more to the table now to do the citizen science guide, in that what was a research project at a library got turned into a production project of producing books for the COVID-19 situation. So we produced 12 books from over 100 doctors and health professionals, gone straight out into frontline use by training nurses and medical staff into public health practice. We're looking at one at the moment, which is about comparing COVID-19 tracking and tracing systems in the public health. So our technology cycle, our learning of the method moved on a lot. And I suppose in terms of making a community publication using book sprints, it's then about, as a guide, you want to break that down into something that is meaningful in a learning context. So the library carpentries is a very good example of this. It's something that's been around for some time now, but growing, but very effective in finding subtle ways to break things down into like time units that can be fit into people's lunchtime training or things like that. So there's there's things for us to learn from the library carpentries. What a likely output for us is to work with something like the Open Science MOOC, but the technology approaches are very much about being interoperable. So Open Science MOOC is one option, but we very much look for interoperability of content. And to finish up, a very big tech stack, but essentially it is about using modern, efficient open source systems and using a lot of things that are already out there. And there's a link you'll hear and see in the slides. You can follow up on that later on. And to round up, the project is from the Citizen Science Working Group, but it is for you and about you. So it's very much an invitation to get involved. And we will be starting some sprints, soonish. And I think probably the next steps is about making an announcement out to the LIBER network and starting to do something in public. So thank you very much. I will wrap up there. And yeah, great. Thank you. I will hand over to Tiberius and to Dirk. Yeah.
Okay, please join me in giving a round of applause to Simon. I see you are already doing. Please post your questions into the chat, and I won't shave much seconds from this. Here is Dirk van Gorp from Radboud University, responsible with open science, and he will present us an academic prospective academic single point of contact at an academic library. Dirk, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Tiberius. I hope you can all hear me. I will make it, well, relatively short because we're already 35 minutes in. My name is Dirk van Gorp. I am the Open Science Manager at the Radboud University in Nijmegen, the Netherlands, and I am going to take a look or share with you some findings, some points on creating a single point of contact within an academic library, or the possibilities to do so, or whether it's wise to do so. First, a bit of context. The academic library already moved towards open science. At first, it was about storage, about search and find. In the early 90s, we saw the coming of open access. Not soon after, there was research data management, which was also taken up by the academic libraries, providing services, creating tools, creating infrastructure. And for the past, say, 5, 6, 7 years, academic libraries are already moving towards open science, not just open access, not just open data, but also copyright issues, and now slowly also citizen science. Many academic libraries already have an open science support hub, or an open science team, or at least a collection of teams working on the various fields that encompass open science. Usually open access, research data management, copyright, sometimes also including some GDPR elements, sometimes in cooperation with the legal departments within the university. So many academic universities already have an open science team, and so it would be fairly obvious to add a citizen science component to such an open science support hub. Many academic libraries already moving past the open science part and not trying to focus on open science as such, but mostly on the research lifecycle elements. So the open science itself is becoming, in a way, less important as at the same time. However, the open science teams usually act as a support hub. They have a website, they have a portal which academics can contact if they have any questions about open access, about data management. It provides a service desk where people can get in touch. They often provide training, workshops, etc. They usually maintain the infrastructure or tools that help with open access management, research data management, etc. And sometimes they also initiate such infrastructure and tools in the form of projects. And so now these open science support hubs might be very suitable venues for a citizen science component to be included. BSPOC. Tiberius will talk about BSPOC, which is a broad perspective on, a single point of contact for a citizen science. Should such a single point of contact be located within the library? There are some pros and there are some cons. First, the pros, of course, written down on a yellow legal pad. The library can act independent of departments and faculties, so that's a very useful, tool, a useful component. Libraries also services all departments, so libraries are usually there for all departments, and departments usually manage to find the library if they have any questions. As mentioned, there are already existing support teams. Open science teams are usually already in existence, or sometimes already in existence, but there are other teams as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be an open science team. And of course, an academic library or library also has a social role. It also attracts non-academics, not just the academics, and might be a suitable place for academics and non-academics to meet. But there are some cons as well. Perhaps there is no open science team within your university or within your library, or there are no similar teams available. Perhaps the goal or the mission of your library doesn't correspond to actually helping out with citizen science. There might not be sufficient capacity for citizen science services. That's one con, of course. One important con as well is the traditional image of a library. Many academics, at the very least, still see libraries as a place where you can, you will find books, where you will be helped with finding material on the internet, but not necessarily a place where you can ask questions about open access, about open science in general. And perhaps the same might apply to citizen science as well. So the library is not necessarily a very obvious location for the academics, at least, to create a single point of contact regarding citizen science. And of course, there might be competing or parallel services within the universities or within certain university departments that are much more suitable candidate to create a single point of contact or to become a single point of contact. So we are working with our LIBER working group on citizen science on a single point of contact. The goal of this single point of contact strategic direction is to deliver a template or a suite of templates with accompanying advocacy for a single CS contact point that could, but not necessarily should, be implemented in research libraries. Important components of such a single point of contact is, of course, you need to have a defined goal and scope. It has to be for both researchers and citizens, or at least that's the point of view that we are taking. Perhaps this might be different at your library or at your institution. It entails quite a lot of cooperation between divisions and services within your university. It has a very important service desk function, and it could also be a infrastructure, provide infrastructure for citizen science skills, as well as initiate workshops for academics, for non-academics, and create workshops and presentations for colleagues within the library community. So what we are trying to do with this strategic direction, what we are trying to create is a suite of templates for a creation of a BSPOC, so creation of a single point of contact at the university. Creation of a website and an online service desk setup. Content templates, provided that this is suitable for your specific institution, of course, and the creation of courses and workshops. Goal and scope. The important thing that you need to decide is what sort of BSPOC do you want to be? What sort of single point of contact do you want to be? Do you want to be an intermediary or much more independent? Do you want to focus on citizens and scientists, or mostly citizens or mostly scientists? And do you want this single point of contact to be library driven, or do you only want the library to participate but not necessarily pull this kind of projects? And part of the deliverables, of course, is also a number of set of templates, templates to create a BSPOC, a number of templates to cooperate with legal departments, with faculties, with copyright information services, etc., etc. These templates will all be created. Of course, these are templates created from our point of view. There may be many more different formats for each different department, for each different faculty. Perhaps even additional formats for every university that would like to contribute. Another deliverable is a portal template, which has two components: a service desk, which forwards to all the relevant services and contacts, which maintains the basic communications, checks and answers emails, shares news, and the website on which you can share news, where you can share best practices, where you can show a contact page, etc., etc. And finally, some other deliverables, content templates and courses, templates on data gathering, data creation, all the different components that might be useful for actually conducting citizen science. Templates and criteria for tool and app curation, which might also be something done by the university library. The data management is already doing things like that, at least in our library. And of course, courses on citizen science skills for both researchers and citizens, and trainer-to-trainer courses. So a single point of contact for citizen science, there will probably be as many different single point of contacts as there are institutions, and the library might not always be the best solution. If the library will act as a bespoke, make use of existing open science or not open science teams and hubs. No matter what sort of bespoke you want to be, cooperation is key, and every university is different. So use those templates and examples that suit your institution. That's it from my end. If you have any suggestions or comments, you can always contact me at this email address. And if you'd like to join our LIBER working group, then contact my colleague Mitya. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Dirk. And I invite all colleagues. I see already they are doing. We are having a warm-up audience, I would say. Great questions are in the chat. Thank you for this. And I really want to leave time for answers. So my prototype, I will just rush it in. So this is a prototype how a citizen science single point of contact could look like. A platform that puts policies, updated reports about the citizen science policy in the university. This is single point of contact is intended for institutions which want to take the activity from the lab at the institution level, at the university level. Second element could be a portal of citizen science activities. You can also use existing portals, but one doesn't eliminate the other. You can have your own and export data in those international portals. Then frameworks of partnerships, because citizen science is about partnership. I hope you see the slides better now. I tried to change something in the settings. In citizen science involves partnerships. Citizen science is by its definition a partnership. Then a fourth element, it's a set of templates for data sets, for protocols, for checklists, how to go into the nature to make sure it's a safe activity, that you inform all relevant departments and the city with emergency issues if they appear, hopefully not. Then specific research communication, it's another element. This is a different kind of communication. When you have citizen science activities, it means that we don't sacrifice the quality of scientific communication, but we have to extend to the lay language. Then it's a connector between this single point of contact and research office to make sure that we have all elements in place to include in the proposals for research grants, to include elements of citizen science. I try to present it oversimplified to just finish in less than 1 minute. A gateway to society, a kind of a desk, digital or physical, where you have society being invited to come up with projects and ideas of citizen science collaborations. Then you have another connector, which is a connector with the legal office. You want to make sure that whatever you are doing, it's a safe activity and you are legally covered from all aspects in what you are doing. And then finally, it's a community builder. Please remember, a community is neither created nor managed. A community is nurtured. And for that, you need a connector embedded in this single point of contact that is nurturing communities. And it's hard to recruit, it's hard to maintain the interests of citizens, and this connector is essential for this citizen science point of contact. This is a prototype. I finish here, and now I invite all my colleagues, the panelists, to become visible. And we have a number of questions coming from the slide. One, I would try to merge them. One question is referring to the role of libraries in the citizen science, which is seen as an activity between researchers and the broader public. What role could libraries have in this? Dirk, would you like to be the first one?
What role should libraries have in, sorry?
What role should libraries have in citizen science, in projects that exist in citizen science? I
think it greatly depends on the kind of library you are and the kind of services you already provide. And also, we are looking at this from a library's perspective, but we're also, of course, have to cooperate with researchers, with different faculties, with different departments. There might be legal issues involved. So this all greatly depends on what you'd like to do and what you can do as a university library. But there are, of course, many different ways in which a library can cooperate. A library can facilitate communication, can act as a single point of contact, so a sort of intermediary between citizens and the researcher themselves, a service that brings the two together, so to speak. Those are all different roles that a library might take up on itself. So there's just a few examples. There must be. I'm pretty sure there are a lot of more opportunities, a lot of more ways for a library to become involved. Take a look at what Anne-Catherine and Thomas Karstedt are doing at their university and their university library. It depends on what sort of university and BSPOC and library you'd like to be.
Yeah, I mean, I see a perspective of it being part of the kind of information literacy training of the researchers that we as libraries can do. To say to researchers, citizen science is something where you can communicate your science. You can also use it for data gathering, but it's also engagement. So one very clear thing that it is quite often not already done, but there's a lot of scope that I think can fit. It's quite often hard to find things that fit within the work of the library. I mean, as Dirk said, it depends on the context.
The library is actually it's very flexible in many cases. We've seen this with the movement towards open access, open science, which are not necessarily library issues, library tasks. But the library was one of the first. Many libraries were one of the first to actually take up on these new developments, and so a library would actually. They're very flexible. They should be able to cooperate in citizen science as well.
And I think that at least our library at the University of Southern Denmark has a lot of competences that we don't have at the faculty. So when we work together, it's a really strong partnership where we work together and do what we do best.
And Anne-Catherine, since you are on the stage, may I extend a question from the chair of Citizen Science Working Group, Dr. Paul Aries, the Vice Provost of UCL. He is asking, what role has citizen science in the public agenda of universities?
In the public agenda?
What do you think? Public agenda of universities. What role citizen science has in that?
Yeah, I think that that citizen science is a very strong method to engage citizens and society in research, and that's exactly why we do it at our university. So I think it functions very well.
Dirk, Simon, what do you want to add on that?
Well, actually, open science is already, let's say, one of the pillars for many universities. Well, or at least many universities have taken up open science as one of their important goals in the coming years. Not just because they'd like to open up research for researchers, but also because the discussion regarding the role of universities within society has cropped up in the past few years, decades as well. It's becoming a hot topic on making sure that the ivory tower of research doesn't remain the ivory tower, but will also benefit society as a whole. And so, using citizen science to incorporate citizens, to make sure that citizens participate actively in science, not just by gathering data, but also by sharing their findings, sharing their own vision on certain topics, perhaps even thinking along the lines of cooperating in the creation of research questions. In this way, you make sure that that citizens feel much more involved in science, and so you, in a way, also combat fake news.
Yeah, I mean, I'd come in on that point. I mean, obviously, it is about the university engaging in its communities and expanding that and expanding the work of its academics and its researchers. But there are societal changes. I mean, I talk about the climate change and the climate protests of last year. You suddenly have a huge youth who want scientific knowledge around questions around climate change, and they're very complex. And we know that we have fake news people putting out fake news on YouTube. So like lots of children, young people are going to YouTube. 50% of content on YouTube is manufactured fake news, which is anti-science, anti-climate change. So I think there's kind of, there's a hunger, there's a pull coming from different, demographics. And it even leads us out to questions which are maybe we might not think are in scope. Like, so I paid attention to this thing about YouTube, but what we realize is there's no catalog of what is on YouTube, and someone from a library, I'm like, no catalog? What's going on? So there are maybe sometimes bigger things that can change too.
Yes, we have great engagement, I would say, in the chat, and thank you to everybody for contributing. One question particularly drew my attention, and it's the possible vicinity between research libraries and public libraries when it comes to the role of in citizen science. And it includes, it's from the same person, Margot de Groot, asking about recruitment and how we recruit. We simply sometimes assume that these are research projects where researchers are going to recruit, depending on their needs, citizens for helping them. But it could be also the other way around, when the citizens are having concerns about nature and about society, and they would like to find solutions, and they come to the conclusion that addressing it to researchers could be interesting. And public libraries could also play a role, because public libraries sometimes is a more obvious role for citizens to step in and address such concerns. What are the panelists' comments in these questions and statements?
I think that the library, no matter what sort of library you are, whether you're an academic library or a public library or something in between, you still, basically, they still have the same role, the same function. And I very much agree that the best thing for especially if you run local citizen-sized project, the best thing for a academic library is to contact public libraries, or perhaps even public libraries contacting the academic libraries, to once again act as an intermediary between the citizens and the academics, because academics tend to be very hard to reach. They are very busy people, and they have lots of things on their minds, and they need to write a lot of academic papers, etc. So a lot of citizens don't know how to actually reach the person, the specific researcher that they need to reach for their specific question. And public libraries can act in the same way as academic libraries can act. In fact, I think I agree. Public libraries would be much better suited to act as a contact point for the citizens themselves. They are much more involved in the local community. They're much more involved with the local government, etc. So a cooperation between the two is, well, in my opinion, very beneficial.
Someone else wants to add?
I think this collaboration between research library and public libraries is extremely important, because the research libraries are close to academia, close to the researchers, and the public library is close to the citizens and offer a perfect platform for meetings and workshop with citizens who won't go to the university, for example. So I think this collaboration between the public and research library will be extremely important moving forward.
Yeah.
Great. Anything else to add, Simon?
Well, I would just say the thing of thinking about the post-digital, and so much of what we do in libraries is become digital, but we've seen that people reacted against that in many aspects of life. They want things which are local. They want things which are handmade. So the public library is a place to go and be in contact in person. Obviously, unfortunately, that's the wrong time to be saying that type of thing, but one day we will be over COVID. And so I think the physical, the being together is, which is what the public library can, offer. One of the many things.
Okay, so we are warned by the organizers that we need to finish at 1:30 sharp, because of another webinar is coming in. We had a great attendance, and I feel due to this attendance, for being here, putting so many questions. We didn't have time to answer all these questions. So if LibreOffice will assist us, we'll take these questions offline and we'll try to give some answers with the panelists that have been here today, but also maybe adding contributions from the working group. Thank you very much for all being here today with us, over 120 attendees. Thank you to all of you. Thank you for the panelists for being here and adding their contribution. And I take all the fault, maybe, of not having enough time to answer all these questions on my side as an unexperienced chair for this. Thank you very much. Thank you, the LIBER organizers, the panelists, and the attendees for being here with us. And hopefully we will see us again soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Great. Thank you, people. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody.